Minutes from the May meeting. We did not have a June meeting. So we have minutes that you have received for May 13, 2025. An opportunity to review those. I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes.
So moved.
And second,
Second.
any questions or comments? All right, I have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion carries. You have the financial reports for May and June. We'll deal with May 1st. We'll deal with May 1st on the agenda. The May statement for the banking account or the checking account is in balance. It shows there you have both the statement and the report from Tom's Web. Ending balance of $404,372.90. Oh, excuse me, I need to entertain a motion to accept the May statements first.
Make a motion.
Right?
Second.
All right, thank you. Sorry about that. Checking account shows in balance as well, with a balance of $30,339.78. You have the fund balance report for May. Rainy day fund, $27,700. Township fund at $323,300. And I'm rounding there, obviously. Donations at $47,400. Township assistance, $16,200. EMS non-reverting at $1,800. Fire equipment debt at -$36,900. That is, we paid it a month early so that I can start the process to get it paid off here in the next several weeks. For a grand total of accounts, cash available of $379,619.35. You have the bank transaction register from May. See it all listed there, nothing unusual than normal. On the township fund for May, see under personnel services, 41% is the target budget area. That's where we're at. Everything else, all pulls in line, well under budget. For total expenditures of 26% of our budget, which is not unusual. On the second half of our East Madison Fire Territory bills, we have the second half of the fire truck payment. Plus, we have another number of other projects that have been in queue and will be paid off here in the next several months. Any questions on the May records? We'll vote on them all together. Discuss them separately. Any questions on the May records?
No.
Same thing then on the June records. The checking account is in balance, shows at $430,351.64. The checking account balance shows in balance with Tom's Web and the account, $30,349.76. Few changes in the fund balance report. Township fund sits at $344,900. Donations, rainy day fund are the same. Township assistance at $21,600. EMS non-reverting the same. And the fire equipment debt is now at $16,313 in the black. For a total of cash available at $459,990.71. The check register for month of June is listed there, going down. Nothing unusual. We had Dino's Lawn Service gets paid there for tree removal. We saw we had the tree out here from the station come down. I was greeted by that Sunday morning when I got home from vacation. We got that out of there. The budget for the township fund, category 1 shows you your target range should be right at 50%, which we are there. We're down the list there, and the total expenditure at 28% of the budget. So we are in range and under budget with anticipated thing. With Tyler, can I get a second copy of that, please? With anticipation of these different projects that we have going on. Any questions on the June statements? A lot of information. We should take the time reviewing that. It's a pain in the neck keeping it straight this time. It's hard enough doing one, 2 months. Send them out. Actually, I sent the first one. I realized there was errors. I stopped. All right, thank you. Any questions on the financial reports for May and June? Not, we have a motion and a second. No questions. I'll entertain, or all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by the same sign? Motion carries. I will send these down to Michelle, and then she'll send it back to me. I'll be Dale this time. I signed it too. I just want to be different. When you photocopy it. All right, trustee mileage allotment. You have the report there for beginning miles, ending miles, and the general purpose of what it was. A lot of cemeteries, storms, and down branches are a problem. Pretty well on top of those things, and this is a 2-month request. Coming in at state allotment for lot mileage at for a total of $220.01. I'll entertain a motion to accept that.
Motion to accept.
Carver. Motion by Dale, second by. Second by, go. Was that a second with a question mark?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed by the same sign. Motion carries. Next item, is this part of public hearing? Fire territory budget.
The public hearing is for the additional it's for the bond proceeds to be able to be spent.
Right, but do I need to announce a public hearing
Yes.
for the fire territory budget that we're doing?
Yes. No.
Next, we go to the proposed budget for 2026 for the fire territory. Appreciate all the work the chiefs do on this budget. I know massive amount of work that goes into it. Chief, I'll let you review.
Wait, if we do no, we don't need a public hearing, because the Union Township will do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
We're just approving it, then to go.
So essentially, kind of the high level stuff where you, we're doing.
Excuse me, Chief. I first need to entertain a motion. Sorry. I keep forgetting. I'll entertain a motion to accept the East Basin Fire Territory 2026 budget.
Motion.
And second by Michelle. All right. Chief, go ahead.
Yeah, so the kind of high level stuff for you in the, number one, the account there, personnel services. We're proposing a 1% raise across the board this year. The uncertainties of the state climate with the, passing of the Senate bill and adjustments to that. So just all those top categories there with my 1%, anything below that pretty much adjusted. Based on that, we did see a just shy of 7% increase in both of our health insurance plans that we're on. So that accounted for a $30,000 increase there in that employee benefits line. And other the rest of that pretty much just stayed pat line. The Account two, we're actually able to do some more adjustments. Besides having, we've had record run numbers with decrease in fuel costs, it's saved us a lot, so we were able to drop that down. Probably be a little bit higher next year's gonna break. Other than that, I mean, everything for the most part across the budget pretty well just stayed pat, just key adjustments to things that we need to adjust. Insurance went up a little bit for potential or likely raises for next year. Everything else is pretty much our normal adjustments. So the overall budget as a whole is a 3.31% increase, which is $123,017 increase. Like I said, most of that's all up that account one for the raises. We also did see on the PERF 1977 fund, the state passed a new law on that requires us to increase the amount that we pay, state mandated, so that increased that number quite a bit as well. So kind of the uncertainty of the income, and the fact that we got to pay more on the retirement side of things, that kind of put a nail in that call. That's pretty much it, unless anybody has any other specific questions or chief, you guys can get that.
So overall, a 3% increase, which most any operating business, if they can hold it at that, they're doing really well. Any questions?
Nope.
So this will now go to the
Union Township.
Union Townships, and then based on Union Township, back to the Territory Board. Final increase. All right, any questions? All in favor of accepting the proposed budget for 2026, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next is opening a public hearing, public meeting for the resolution 2025.7.8. That is the resolution to proceed with financing and cost, the acquisition of 2 tankers. It's general loans. That anything else in there?
So this is actually the public hearing for the additional appropriation, which is just a form, it's just making the books like the building corp. It's for the transfer of funds between the building corp and it's kind of fake funds. They're like the asset, you're transferring the asset to the building corp, these 2 assets probably, and you're gonna lease back the equipment. So this allows for us, the ability to do that. This is a recommendation that Jacob wanted us to do. I think it's a little unnecessary, but he's the attorney, so we're just.
He's the one that has to go to
Yeah.
court.
And it also gives the ability to spend down bond proceeds. So when you get the bond proceeds, you can spend it on.
Right, so I'll entertain a motion to accept resolution 2025-7-8. Second by Dale. All right. Michelle's given us just a general overview of that. The whereas is in there, the sections are all there. You've had it, opportunity to examine it. Any questions on that? Any questions? If no further questions, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of accepting resolution 2025-7-8, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, just kidding.
I thought I missed something. You've got to sign that. All right, next item. So that closes our public hearing. Right.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of give the public a chance to talk on it. You say we're opening up. a public
Any
hearing.
public comments, chiefs? No other, we also have attendance, so we'll close that part of the public hearing. Next item is some items regarding the cemeteries. We are making progress. We've had down trees everywhere. We thought we had them all down, and those that survived the first storm, some of them survived the second storm, but we've we are currently got everything taken care of. We have, the power company is taking down a bunch of trees in Curtis Cemetery. And he told us that we have one dead tree right in the middle, which I didn't even know was there. I looked at it, there's so many trees on the property. He said, if we can get it, we'll take it down for you. I said, thank you so much, that'll be great. He said, if it falls, it'll take down a wire anyway, so take it down for us. But we do have an issue right now just with one cemetery, and that is Moonsville Cemetery. That's the only really most current used cemetery, where people have left little statues and flower pots and angels and pictures and different stuff. Some of these have been there for years. I mean, they're falling apart on their own, and then the weed whacker nudges up against them and they're shattered all over. Most cemeteries have a cemetery regulations, how long, how big. I went around, looked at a couple of them and figured out that it'd be actually cheaper for us to buy just a generic one already made. I gave you a sample of that. Summer decorations being removed by October 31st. It's not listed on the list, it's going to be removed. One shepherd's hook, no homemade markers on the graves, no planting of flowers or shrubs or trees by monuments. We have our own trees. Urns or planters not filled by July 5th will be removed, and then the cemetery is not responsible for any graves or flowers. I would recommend that we purchase a sign very similar to this. We would mount it on the fence out there. And that way, we won't do anything to the fall, but in the fall, once we start cleaning that up. The other cemeteries, we really don't have any people putting items there, and some of these items have been there probably long before Bill was trustee. I would feel bad removing anything now, even if it's damaged, without having some notice to that. So this sign's $85 or something like that, so it's not any real cost. But before I put up anything regarding what we thought is regulations for cemeteries, I believe we probably ought to have some input on that. Any suggestions or comments? This is not a vote issue.
So I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Pretty well covers it.
Pretty well covers it.
That's what we need.
You're the one out there in the cemetery more than I am sometimes.
Yeah.
You know the problem that we're dealing with.
Are there repercussions, or they're just kind of guidelines, I guess?
Well, this is where the bottom line says the cemetery is not responsible for any flowers or planters. If you were to take a walk out there, you would see 95% of the stuff is broken down, shattered. The mower is kind of put it up on a little pile on the top of the base of the headstone. This will just give us something to say, no, you need to do this. I've been asked about this at one cemetery, and I just asked the guy what he was going to do. He said, oh, yeah, problem. Didn't feel a need to post anything, but it's we're making our way with some straightening up of some of the sinking headstones and tilting headstones. I figured, and we're starting that at Moonsville Cemetery. I figured we probably ought to, before I start, I can't say digging because we're not digging, we're putting a clamp under the grave's headstone, and lifting it and putting some stone under it. That we probably need to have this in place before. Everybody concur with that? Bill, you said yes, Michelle, yes.
Yeah.
Bill. So we'll proceed with that. Nothing will happen until the fall with that. We have trees, fence lines, we're continuing to work on headstones. If you haven't driven by any of the cemeteries, you ought to look at them. We break it 3 times totally. And the old limestone, tombstone headstones, they're bright and shiny.
I have one suggestion. I don't know if they could do it. Will they have repaired the stones They use a piece of iron and put it together and it's rested. If the one that's there could be taken off, use aluminum, you can buy aluminum stock.
That will be the next major item, which will probably be years from now. First, we've got to be able to address the sinking headstones. That is, when you look at headstone repair, that's not something that a person can do on their own. They've got to be able, we've got to hire a restoration company for that. So, good suggestion. I know it's the same.
I think we did it ourselves years ago. But that was,
Years ago.
but the stones are really looking good. The old stones are.
So we do have, most of our fence lines are taken care of. We've got a couple, at the Hartman Cemetery that we're still waiting on. I got trees, thousands of dollars worth of trees I'm taking out right now. So, I do have a fence line at the Nelson Cemetery up to the front there on the Richland Township Cemetery Association. That whole fence line is overgrown, and I have a bid for $3,500 to clean that fence line up so that we can start the process of, for lack of a better term, marketing or making sure that folks know that there's a cemetery there that they can use. Right now, it looks like an old abandoned cemetery that gets mowed every couple months. So we're hoping to be able to, as we assist Richland Township Cemetery Association, hoping to increase the, is that a bad term to use for cemetery? But increase the visual aspect of the cemetery. We've got several people who have volunteered to help us on that. The state told me that whatever I can do to keep it off of our plate at this juncture, and that includes paying for some of these projects for them, will help us. Certainly, it's great there at Nelson Cemetery as well. So that's what we're doing. We're gonna have another board meeting probably in early August, and as we have cemeteries or plots that are open or interest in the purchase of a lot, Mr. Scott is contacting the folks who are potentially helping to be able to get out there and learn the books, because the day will happen probably sooner than later that it will become Richland Township property. And then, you know, we got to know where things are at, what things are doing. I have my son-in-law's hopefully going to help us out with some geolocation. Josh, he would be talking to you about that. That we can identify general markers out there that are placed to help with the measurement. Big question on the cemeteries. Yep. Good work. So, across the street looks pretty good for you.
That's. Name of that one.
All right. I should have put all caps then on mowing issues. I've had more mowing complaints. I think I sent out 4 registered letters in the last week and a half, 2 of which have included discussions with our lawyer, knowing that I've spoken to before about what my responsibility is, and specifically about these 2 properties in particular. And I said, before I go any further, because I get resistance from you, he goes, nope, you're absolutely right. We do not have to have a height regulation. Richland Township does not, the county does not have a height regulation, but your grass has to be cut at a certain height. It falls under the Indiana code about rank vegetation and extreme overgrowth, both of which, if we put a 2-foot height regulation, we would still be way under what that is. So we'll have some, we've gotten legal input on that and keep getting those issues taken care of. Had one complaint where, I went by and drove by and the yard looked like my yard, but I was gone for 10 days. I said, well, that's not quite where we're at on that. Any questions on mowing issues? And I'm purposely leaving the names of the properties off.
No, not necessarily, but
One question I have is, I've noticed now with the heat, we're getting quite a bit of thistle bushes showing. And I believe that is a regulation, they need to be cut. Is that our job to follow up on that?
If I receive a complaint on that, I follow up, yes,
Okay,
thistles and
yeah.
there's a whole bunch of other.
I'm surprised the farmers haven't called you already.
When I get a call,
Pardon?
when I get a call, I'll deal with it.
Okay.
Deal. Okay, then- Go ahead and sign, I don't know how your name got typed in. Sign those two, it says Bill Cook. And you keep one for your records. All right, and then, number 9, as far as I know at this point, doesn't affect any of you, it doesn't affect me. The state of Indiana passed some new campaign financing laws. Used to be, when you were running for an office, you had to form a finance committee, and it would close at the end of that election. Now it has to be kept open. So I had to, because I'm an elected official making over $5,000, I have to reopen my campaign financing and then file 2 or 3 times during an election year and then every year afterwards. If you make less, my understanding, if you make less than $5,000, which I happen to know, signing paycheck, so. If you make less than $5,000, you're not required to do that unless you spend more than $500 on a campaign. Spend more, I think it's 500, maybe 600. And we'll get a clarification on that if you decide to do that. But the filing deadline will be the first part of January 26th for the following year. On top of that. All right, any questions on that? If not, our next meeting will be August 12th at 6 o'clock here at the station. Fire territory report should be May, June. Chief?
Yeah, Chief Rose just had to step out of a phone call, but pretty active time for us. We did have a successful July 3rd and 4th festivities down there. No real major incidents to report on. Everything went pretty well. Decent turnout. We had about 420 cars at the fireworks, and then the parade, the crowd was actually pretty full. It was down on entries for the crowd, for parade entries, but the crowd was actually pretty decent. We did get an FAA special waiver to be able to do oversight with the drone during the parade. So we were actually flying the airspace. So we got a drone out the whole time. It's actually operating it, providing oversight, which is kind of nice. We're able to do a lot of assisting with traffic flow and identifying challenges and things. So that was helpful. Luckily, we had two situations that were called out on the radio that the drone was able to help with, including one that worked out because protected airspace. We had a missing child that had rang off, got away from his parents right at the end of it, came in, because we have a waiver, we were able to go immediately and help with that. So, pretty successful event there. Good turnout from our membership, really good turnout. We last month we had a significantly higher record number. We did 293 responses in the last month. Month of June, which I think our next closest is like 250 something. So significantly higher month. And we are currently sitting on pace to eclipse the 3,000 mark this year. So it's a substantial year for us.
Yeah, fourth was a big deal as it always is, and a lot of extra staffing, so that means extra payroll and all that stuff that we just, it's something we have to deal with every year. Thousands of extra people coming in the area during all that time. Up staffs. It's been busy.
We do Right now, the final inspection for the tankers are set to be around the second week of August. Actually, got 4 like login and see progress. But those are July 2nd. So, moving right along, except for this one, we'll do real quick. Bodies are already formed. They're in paint, light is on now, chassis. It'll be the second week of August, everybody. Needs a place to be forms.
Second week of August? Moved up again?
It did, yep.
They may be sitting on the lot for a week.
It was originally supposed to be December, then it became November, then it became October, and last time I talked to Michelle, it was 1st of September. And he sent us an email and said, hey, they're going to production next week. Right, we'll start moving quick, we're looking around the second week of August. And I was like, okay, well, we'll see how that works, but,
Okay, like the good thing is we have all the documents, the paperwork, procedural stuff done, so we, and we have it locked in right now with, Huntington at 4.4%, so that's a pretty good rate. So, yeah, we're kind of ready to, we do need the, EIN. We were talking about it before, but I was like trying to get myself together. I need to
There is a destination travel charge. We need to have a conversation about adding into that figure. It's 3,500 apiece per truck.
we're gonna have some conversations on that. It's, an option is to
Where are they
drive
coming
it
from?
back.
Minnesota.
$3,500, and they'll either truckload them here or have a professional driver bring them here. And which one's the options? About $3,500 per truck. Technically, in order to drive it back, because it's not an in-service emergency vehicle, you should have a CDL. If I would, it's kind of strict some regulations. Something that happened to break down 10 on us, plus they're down to like 62 miles an hour. So from Minnesota, north or south Dakota, it's like right around Sioux Falls. That's a drive to 62 miles an hour. So,
like
And,
that.
and you get to go through Chicago.
yeah, we'll have that. I think we're gonna be better off than just $7,000.
Take a little break, wait a minute.
And if something happens on the way here,
It's their problem, it's their truck.
Yeah, that's true, for sure. That's a long way to drive.
All right, any questions from chiefs? The, Josh showed me before the parade, the drone in operation. If you ever get a chance to have him show you what that thing can do, it's just amazing. All right, projects that are in queue, I mentioned a couple of them. We've already talked about the electrical upgrade to the buildings, that is a work in progress, no news at this juncture. Talked to Josh about some building security upgrades and internet accessibility upgrades at the same time. First, which is building security. The more I ask questions, they got to pull wires, might as well pull wires at the same time, it'd be cheaper to do it. But that comes in at about $18,000, which is all budgeted part of the process. But just so you're aware of what's going on. Both buildings will then be identical in their security and internet capabilities. The entry pads will be a little bit different than what we currently have. You'll receive a new key fob, or the old one will still work. Old one still work, plus you'll have a 4-digit code you can put in their facial recognition. And they'll take pictures of you coming and going. And then we have some rescue equipment coming in here at the end of the month. We want to talk about that. That's about 20,000, I believe. Somewhere in there. So, any questions on projects that we're working on? Good news is we haven't had any concrete falling in up front. So. Any other questions or comments? All right, open forum questions from public. Chief?
Good job.
Chief? Bill?
No.
Michelle?
I do have a comment. upcoming deadline for townships to now put together capital improvement plans to September 30th.
We have,
So it's different now because there's a calculation that about 50% of what your leftover like budget is of unrestricted funds have to be put into a township road fund if you don't have it built into your capital improvement plan. But
30% of funds at the end of the year on the September 30th.
after like you budget, right, so you're left, your surplus, yeah, so you budget your revenues, like your leftover cash. The fund balance. Well.
So I will
Yeah,
talk to you about that.
okay.
That will probably answer all the questions that they didn't answer when we said, how do you deal with this?
Yeah, it's,
When we did our first capital improvement.
yeah, the DOJ's supposed to put out some kind of, template for it, but
Okay,
we'll see.
and this, well, I'll talk.
Yeah.
The other comments? When Michelle has comments, but it means we can actually understand what's happening. All right, Dale?
No comments, it's good.
All right. No other comments or questions? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn for the day.
Robert's Rules of Order. I do not need a second. In favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for coming.